Yeah, give a little one.
Okay. All righty, we're ready to start with Coach McElwain, and he'll give an opening statement, and then we will take your questions.
Well, good. Well, first of all, great to see everybody here, and what an honor it is to be at SEC Media Days, and how humbling it is to be the head football coach at the University of Florida. It's something that growing up, you never think you'd have that opportunity, and yet I'm very honored for that. And now to be here representing the University of Florida, it's something that's very exciting, and looking forward to really seeing how our guys come out of this offseason, really our older guys, as far as how they've indoctrinated the younger guys into what we expect through the transition of where we're headed, and really looking forward to August 6th, actually, when we get out there and start it.
Okay, raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you. We're going to start in the very back, it looks like.
Hey, Coach. Jake Young from WJHL in Johnson City, Tennessee. Just give me your kind of your thoughts when you took over the program, when you first came in. When you looked at that team, how close do you feel like it really was to being a team that can compete to win the East this year?
Well, that's one of those things. I know this. Those guys that coach there did a heck of a job and worked their tails off, and sometimes things just didn't work. I know we had a lot of guys go out into the NFL, get drafted, and I think that speaks volumes for the kind of talent that was there and how it was developed. And now our deal is we've got to build on those positives. We've got to build on the things that Coach Muschamp and his staff did, and they did a lot of really good things now, and you can tell by the quality of these kids that are here that are representing the University of Florida. I think that speaks volumes about what it was all about. So for us, it's about implementing some of the beliefs that we have, some of the things as far as helping us be successful, and the guys have really adapted to it. I'm really proud of the way they've attacked what we've asked them to do.
Coach Tony Cornish Jr., WTVY in Dothan. Talk a little bit about your situation up front. We, old school guys know it starts up front in the trenches. Right. Your offensive line, been a lot of rumors are out there. You're scouting the big bodies around campus. What's the situation right now in Gainesville?
Yeah, I got to tell you, we had a couple guys come out. We had pizza delivery guy, bartender, and this engineering student to help us through practice, and they did a great job. And I'm just glad they were there because I think I was next. But at the same time, that isn't something that just happens, and it's the way it is. And yet, us developing in the offensive line is going to go a long ways to how good you're going to be on offense. Let's face it, there's no doubt. It starts up front, and now we've got 16 able bodies in there. We're going to be able to practice the way we like to practice. There are going to be some young guys trying to have to jump in there and get some reps early, but that's what they came in to do, and we're excited about that opportunity for them. And as I told them, it's kind of like being at Disney World and having a fast pass. You're getting on a ride right now, and they're going to do that, and you've never seen a guy get a lot, by taking mental reps. I think about, when I had a basketball, I go to the gym, I wasn't staring at the hoop, I was shooting, right? It's about taking reps. So that's what these guys are going to be able to do, and I'm excited to see how they have molded together once we get there in August and now have week 2, week 3 as we kind of roll together. I'm excited to see what kind of product we're going to be able to do out there.
Coach Joe Whalen, WBMA TV in Birmingham. Are there any things that you learned from Coach Saban that you're applying yourself as a head coach? And are there any things that you saw him do that you didn't think worked well that you're not going to do?
It's interesting along the way. That experience is invaluable. I mean, to have that opportunity, growing up in Montana, I'd never thought in a million years I'd have an opportunity to coach the University of Alabama, and I'm just, amazed with that. Learned so much, but as he told me, it's when we went off to Colorado State, he said, look, you've been around some great coaches, which I have been, and you take a little bit from each one of them and try to apply it to who you are. I can't be him. No one can be. We've got to be who we are, and each one of us individually, and yet a lot of the base principles, foundations, and fundamentals of success. Doesn't matter what business you're in, it doesn't matter what form of work you're in, it all comes back to some certain fundamentals, and those are the things that we're applying.
Hey, Coach, Steve Newsom, WEAR Pensacola. What did you see out of Will and Treon in the spring? What impressed you about them, and is one guy ahead of the other one at this point?
You know, I really enjoyed how eager they were to learn, you know, and really kind of grasp the moment. That was the one thing I thought was really good, the way that they approached the mental standpoint of it, you know, and how they really worked at the nuances of what we're trying to teach. Now, I think the big thing once we get there in August will be to see who took and how they took control in the summer to make the players around them better. To be successful playing that position, there's a lot of guys with talent, but how you elevate the other 10 guys around you, and really how you can elevate a whole team, is something that's really important. So seeing which one of those guys kind of have done that, how the team moves as we're in, you know, team drills, those are the things we're looking for in August.
Hey, Coach Lee Howard, WKYT. A lot of pride surrounding the Florida football program. How or why will the Gators be better this year?
You know, that's one thing that's great, man. The former players, how open that they've been, you know, to you know, get this thing back to where, you know, where it was at one point, and that's what we've been entrusted to do. I know this. I'm looking forward to it, and it's awful exciting, and yet, you know, somebody asked about pressure. I mean, shoot, you know, I mean, why do we go through life if you don't have a little bit of adversity and expectation, right? So I don't know. I think it's fun.
Hey, Coach, here in the middle, Jacques Duce, WAFB TV in Baton Rouge. Certainly at Alabama, you had your share of classic games against LSU. What would you tell your team, a few things about, you know, taking a squad to Baton Rouge and playing the Tigers?
Talk about a tough place to play, but a fun place to play. You know, I think that's what's really cool about this SEC is the different places that you get to go play, the traditions. When you think about the great games that have been played over years, you know, in these different venues, I mean, that really is something to embrace. And, you know, having an opportunity to go against, you know, a team that year in and year out is one of the top football teams in the country. I mean, that's why we play the game. And, you know, you embrace it. You embrace those fans, man. Those fans there are nuts. I love it. It's great. They'd fit in Montana with me, and that's a lot of fun.
Coach Michael Spencer from WATE in Knoxville, Tennessee. Florida has a long winning streak currently going over the Vols. Is that something that as that game gets closer you might address? Obviously you weren't there, but some of those players were.
Well, you know, I mean, there again, those are all things at this point, you know, it's about being able to prepare today to get better for tomorrow. It doesn't matter. That game's going to come. There's no doubt. And, you know, to obviously embrace the history of the game, you know, and the different things that go into it. I think that's really good. But, you know, right now, I mean, guys, I know it sounds cliche, but it's the truth. I mean, we'll open with New Mexico State. Last time I checked, they were on the schedule. And then, but before we ever get to play that game, we better take care of the now. Because if you don't take care of the now, you're never going to have a chance to be successful at any time.
Hey, Coach Castillo from Gator Country. You talked a lot about when you first came in wanting to opening up the offices, have that open door policy. We've seen the players out there with you at camps and stuff. How is that coming along? Have they really bought into that yet?
Well, I enjoy them coming up and saying hello. As one of the things we did when we first got there was they had one responsibility, and that was to come up every day and see how we're doing. Now, the amount of them that said, you know, they'd never been up there before was kind of shocking. And yet at the same time, you know, just kind of the way our facilities are built, it's not, you know, conducive to that. So as I tell them, I said, guys, there's days I might need picked up. Come up and see how I'm doing. Let's talk and make sure that you're doing okay. And that's all part of building the relationships with your players. And, you know, I really like being around the guys and as much as we can. So it's fun to see them up and around and sticking their head in, making sure we're doing okay.
Who visits you the most, or maybe comes in and picks you up the most?
There's quite a few of them that do, and it's fun. I'm not a guy that ever talks about an individual guy, but they're a lot of fun to be around. We good?
Coach, Vernon Hargraves, one of the guys you brought today. What stands out about him? What have you been impressed about so far with Vernon?
Not only how he approaches practice, but how competitive he is in practice. The great ones are guys that understand what it takes to work to perfect your craft every single day, and he does that. He practices hard, he competes hard. Doesn't matter what the drill is. The guy's driven to do it to the best of his ability, and in turn, that's contagious with the people around you. And so it's one of those deals where it's fun to see him operate, and yet also the way he takes care of himself off the field, both in the classroom, and how he interacts with people within the organization. I think it just speaks volumes about how successful this guy's going to be.
Coach, who will be the face of Florida football in 2015?
Well, there'll be this big gator.
Any players?
I'm not one of those guys. I don't do that. I think it takes, all 105 for you to be successful. So I've never been big on that. And yet at the same time, somebody's going to step up. And yet the amazing thing is that person who steps up and maybe makes some of those plays, the reason he made the plays are because the other 10 guys around him. And those are the guys that I give credit to, the guys that maybe don't show up in the box score, because that's how you build a solid football team.
Hey, Coach. Nicole Noren with ESPN. What are your thoughts on the new SEC rule, the transfer rule, which prevents athletes from going to another SEC school if they've been punished for serious misconduct? And also, how do you feel about second chances, like the notion of giving guys second chances?
Well, it's interesting. We talk constantly. It's about being an educator and a teacher. Everybody in this room, everybody, you included, has freedom of choice. That's what makes America great, right? We don't have freedom of consequence, and hopefully, guys learn, you educate, you try to teach, and yet you can't be there 24 hours a day. And, what we try to do is try to help these young men be successful, not only as players, but in life. And that's all we can do.
Front row, right here.
Hey, Coach. Brian Scheibel from Family Act. Has there been anything over these last few months that you felt has been maybe more challenging or just different than what you encountered as a head coach at maybe a smaller school?
Well, I got to say this. Colorado State, that's a great place now. And that's a place that's going to do great things. There's great leaderships there. We had great coaches there, guys that worked their tail off. And, I think anywhere you go, it's about evaluating the situation. Every place has a different set of goods, things to work on, all that kind of stuff. And it's about implementing a plan and prioritizing moving forward. So, with that being said, I was really fortunate to have that opportunity to be around the great people I was at Colorado State and the great players. And, now this opportunity, it's something that's pretty special.
Coach, when it comes to facilities in the SEC, there's always a lot of keeping up with the Joneses. I know that Florida is progressing on an indoor practice facility right now. For what you're trying to build, how important is that step for you guys? We've got a long ways to go. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And yet I'm proud of the people, in the administration that have taken a look, and it isn't just, necessarily in the SEC. It's across college football. And, it's one of those things that are being addressed. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to be part of that. Never thought somebody would ask me what color carpet you'd want in a room, but I ain't real good at that anyway. So, but at the same time, it's good to see progress. Here's the interesting thing is each one of us, when we go through whatever we do, if we just think we've arrived, there's somebody else doing something to beat you every single day. And so it's always constantly evaluating whatever it is that you're doing and trying to build for the future. And that's something we're doing right now, and I'm excited to be part of it.
We have time for one more question.
Coach, has taking back the swamp and making the atmosphere, the home atmosphere, been a big priority or talking point for you guys? And do you think it can be the top venue in college football when it's up and running like it has
Well, I
been?
just know, having played in it, or coached in it, what a special place. And obviously, one of the things you go to is, you've got to protect your home base first. And that's something we've got to get back to. It's a daunting place to play. It's an exciting place to play. And yet, what's fun, and we talked about playing at LSU, it does something to juice up the other guys too a little bit, the opportunity to go in there and play. And if you're afraid, you ought to go into some other business, I think. So.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.